Welcome to Spirit's Journey, coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio and simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. Your hosts are Patrick and Kathryn Andries.
Join us each week as we explore a wide range of metaphysical topics such as dreams, astrology, intuitive readings, and life purpose. You'll receive practical guidance so that you can live your most awesome life.
Learn more about what we do at intuitiveschool.com and connect with us on Facebook at Spirit's Journey Radio. Welcome to Spirit's Journey. We are coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio and being simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. You can also find us on iHeartRadio, TuneIn, TalkStream Live, among others. We're here in the Heartland, holding the energy for spiritual truth and awareness. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Kathryn. Welcome, everyone, to Spirit's Journey. This week, we have an amazing metaphysical channel today that I think is going to help answer a lot of questions about what's going on in the world today. So we have Lee Chapin today. She has a master's degree in counselor education, a Bachelor of Science in psychology, 39 years of combined experience as a psychotherapist, spiritual counselor, teacher, motivational speaker, author, licensed massage therapist, healing energy practitioner, and associate pastor. So Reverend Lay is the owner of Celestial Connections, which offers spiritual counseling, healing, intuitive guidance, and channeled messages from the ascended masters and the angelic realm. Welcome, Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate being on your show today. It's always a delight to be able to be with like-minded folks.
Yeah, it's our privilege and pleasure.
And so we have so many exciting things to talk about, your books and work. And so let's just begin a little about, your background and how it led you to this amazing world of metaphysical channeling.
Well, when I was 26 years old, I left the Midwest and I moved to Tampa, Florida. And I know from looking back on that at that time, I had no idea what I was doing, but I moved to Florida to meet my spiritual teacher who helped me open up to metaphysics. So at the young age of 26, I was a spiritual seeker, but I didn't really know much about metaphysics. And my good friend and mentor, Cecilia Kelly, I met her when I was working in the mental health center. I'm a psychotherapist, and so I began to, as they say, pick her brain and drive her crazy because I was like a sponge, just learning as much as I could from her. So that's how that journey began. And then we fast forward to 1993 when I began to spontaneously begin to hear the words of spirit. I'd been given a psychic reading from a lady in the mid-'80s, I believe it was 86, and she told me that I had the ability to channel. And I was still working as a psychotherapist at that time and studying metaphysics. But my life changed. I ended up moving back from Florida back to Illinois, which is my home state. I changed professions. I became a massage therapist. And during a Reiki session, I began to spontaneously channel the same spirit guide that this lady had told me about 7 years prior. I had not been thinking about channeling. I hadn't even really been practicing that. I had that interest initially when she told me, and then like the rest of us, you get busy and your life changes. And on that day, on March 23rd, 1993, my primary guide, Grand, started channeling through my voice. I knew who he was. I knew what I was doing. And then I've been able to perfect it and move forward, in the last 27 years. So that is that story in a short nutshell.
I love how you went from, traditional psychotherapist into this realm and probably never looked back, right?
No, I remember before I went to massage school, I was working on a psychiatric unit at a hospital, which is actually right across the street from where I'm staying now in my hometown. But there was a better way of helping people, but I was not channeling then. I had no idea what it was that I was feeling, except I know it was my soul was calling me that I was supposed to be doing something different. And I just remember thinking there's a better way of helping people than what I was doing at the psychiatric unit doing traditional therapy. And so when I started combining my gift from spirit with my psychotherapy skills, education, and training, then that's what it was that my soul was trying to explain to me that day when I heard that. And I remember being quite puzzled. What was it that was that was lurking in my mind that there was a better way. So what I do is I combine my ability to hear spirit. I'm a direct voice channel, and so I bring that information from spirit to help people understand aspects of their life that they're struggling with. So it's really, I call it spiritual psychotherapy.
That's great. That's great. So now you actually work with two groups, as I understand it. One is the Holy Family Ascended Masters. The other is the Angelic and Celestial Realm. So how did that begin, and what's that like? What kind of interactions do you have?
Well, as I said, in 1993, I began to spontaneously channel my primary guide, Grand. And then about 4 years later, I started channeling the archangels. And then in 1997, I always remember the dates, I don't know why, but in 1997, I began to work with the Holy Family. And at that time, it was still new to me, and I was a little bit surprised simply because I was not religious. I wasn't raised in church, but I believed in God. I was a spiritual seeker of metaphysics, but I was not religious. So somehow I equated being able to communicate with the Holy Family with being Catholic, and wasn't Catholic. So I have to laugh now because that has nothing to do with anything, because
Right.
I know that, I've lived, if you've read my book, Divine Union, that I lived at the lifetime of Christ and the Holy Family.
Oh.
I was Jesus's cousin and Mother Mary's niece. And so that's the reason that I was able to bring forth their message and teachings and write the book to share their story. So,
Oh, wow.
during that time of that first awakening, it was like I was really quite stunned. But it's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I've had to reconcile my own fears of people not understanding this. But it seems like more and more people are acknowledging and awakening that you can communicate, with the Holy Family.
Oh my gosh. This is fabulously. So I want to jump forward a little bit and talk about what kind of, because I know this is on the forefront of everybody's mind, is, the coronavirus, everything that's going on in the world today. So what messages have you received from your channels, the angelic realm and so forth, in regards to what is happening with the coronavirus and the, everything else going on?
Well, every Monday morning, for probably the last 15 or 17 years, I've lost track of time, I channel Mary Magdalene and Joshua every Monday, and I bring the message of universal teachings and what's happening in current events into an audio recording. I have a small teleconference class that I do, and I share the wisdom teachings of these beloved masters. What they've shared with me is that the virus is really it's the symbology of fear from when we fell from grace. So when we as spirits came to this planet to assist Mother Gaia eons and eons ago, we fell from our consciousness of the oneness with the God essence, and we came into our physical bodies, into our soul incarnations, and we lost our awareness of who we were. And so they're explained to me that this fear that we are experiencing or have experienced through eons of time from separation from the energy of oneness is really the energy symbology of the virus. It's the collective consciousness of fear that's in humanity's consciousness. That's why it's so pervasive. Because we're moving into this rapid time of ascension into this new earth, they've explained that the year of 2020 is the year of clarity, the year of vision, that we're moving into a higher frequency into ascension, into fifth dimensional frequency. The planet is moving forward into its pure state of consciousness or higher consciousness. We as humans are needing to heal or release base emotions and to begin to clear this fear that's been pervasive, that's been held into the collective consciousness or into our own Akashic records from, the beginning of time when we, came to this planet. So this fear really is pervasive in the sense that either people are really entrenched in the fear, or people who are understanding are realizing that this energy can be overcome by holding the space of love, being present with our knowledge that we are love, that love will heal and conquer all. And yet for those who are affected with the fear, it's really important for them to begin to take a look at those base emotions that are ruling them. So I know I have, there's a wide spectrum of people that are really terrified, and then I have a lot of friends who are the same way. They're just holding the space of love, holding the energy, keeping the vibration high, and they're really not overly affected by what is happening. I mean, we're all affected to some degree, but emotionally, they're able to be stable. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. It's really interesting because I've noticed the same thing. The one thing that's spreading faster than the virus is the fear of it. And some of the people who I would not expect to be afraid of it actually are. So it's been interesting observing people's reactions, because I think it is bringing out a lot of things that maybe people didn't know was there. And so, how each of us are dealing with this, I think kind of opens our eyes to where we are and what we're doing, and kind of gives us clues in terms of, where we can go next. So I think there are some benefits coming out of it. Obviously, it's something that is a collective global experience, which, it's been some time since we've had something that affected the whole global consciousness to this degree.
And plus, on a side note, not one to be ignored also is Spirit says, or Jeshua or Mary Magdalene told me that the earth needs to regenerate herself. So she's ascending, she's able to regenerate herself. And I'm sure you know stories where the pollution has been diminished, or the marine life is coming, back. They're able to see more of the marine life. And yet, many of us, of course, have been concerned about global warming, about destroying our planet. And to me, what is miraculous is that just in a short period of time, Mother Earth is able to rejuvenate herself, how quickly she's able to rejuvenate herself. So for us to alleviate the fear that we're destroying the planet, yes, we have to be conscious. And this is a wake-up call for all of us to be mindful of how we are contributing, to the destruction of the earth, or not using her resources wisely, and be able to monitor our behavior. And again, for us to realize that we are affecting the planet and how quickly she can rejuvenate us. That is what's so amazing to me. Mm-hmm. Plus, we as humans, this is giving an opportunity for us to reset ourselves so that we can rejuvenate ourselves, we can rebirth ourselves, we can move forward into this year of 2020 with clarity of what our soul is calling us to do in this particular life.
Yes, and I, with the pollution thing, it's very interesting because the cities that were hit the worst with the virus, Lombardy, Italy, New York, Los Angeles, and these are places where we have a huge, high concentration of pollution. And so Dr. Zach Bush, in an interview recently that I heard, was saying that the virus kind of, if you can't detox it because your lungs are so filled up with the contamination, that's why people in those areas have it so bad. And he actually had a suggestion, which I thought was really cool. In the fall, when temperature starts changing, that's when, we get to the flu season towards the end of fall. He said that, we should do something like, 1 or 2 days a week, no cars, you have to ride your bike or whatever, just in those seasons when flu season's going to peak. And I thought, wow, if something like that could come out of this, I would love it, or at least maybe public transportation. But so one of the things about the fear that I was curious about is, so obviously there's a lot of unconscious fears. Like most people, if you talk to them and they say they're afraid of the virus, they're not going to say, oh yeah, it's because ascension, they're not going to connect with that, but it's death, their fear of death. And so I think it shows how little we really, we can talk, oh yeah, I'm a metaphysical person, I know reincarnation, but when it comes down to it, if they're faced with a disease they think they can die from, they freak out. And it's so interesting to me. It's like, people really aren't walking their talk.
But this is just bringing up people's innate fears and whatever is not healed inside of them. So whatever fears they might be having. So a lot of people are contacting me because not only because of the virus, but it's also bringing up other issues for people. Other issues, if they're not balanced, if they're not emotionally balanced within themselves, it's bringing up other issues for them. So people are having difficulty with, of course, the isolation and separation, worried about, of course, their income. And yet once people begin to identify what is driving their fears and begin to realize that we are in control, we are masters of our own destiny. Yes, we have to deal with some level of circumstances, but this is a time for us to, again, think out of the box, begin to reinvent ourselves, and begin to call in the energy of our true I Am presence to support us, to protect us, and to bring us into a state of balance. This is really the key for us to return to. That is what my book, Divine Union, is about. That's what the love story of Jesus and Mary Magdalene is about. It's not only the story of how Jesus and Mary Magdalene met and how Mary helped him to the crucifixion before, during, and after, but the template or the basis of this story is about finding balance within yourself, being able to return to that energy of balance, into the energy of oneness, which we originally separated from, again, what I call from, I don't want to say the fall of grace, but that's the word I'm using, when we separated from God. So this is about returning to balance. This is the key for us to move forward into the ascension, that we're able to balance our male-female energies, to return to center, to move into that still, quiet place within us, regardless of what is happening around us, that we can still be at peace. We know who we are, and we know that we are the masters and the creators of our own life force.
I think that's a great message. This whole experience I've described sometimes as the great pause. It's almost like giving this little time to kind of become secluded in our cave and take some time to turn within and get back to a simpler way of life. And I think the key, like we were talking about the pollution earlier, and it's more than just the pollution. It's also mental pollution too, and emotional pollution. It's our lives were just so hectic. Everybody was rushing around. This gave everybody some time to just kind of relax and spend time together as a family, to slow down for a while. So I think the real key is going to be if we can get back into a more normal routine without going back to business as usual. That's really going to be the key. Like we were talking about, trying to, monitor our impact on the environment, things we need to be doing for decades. These are very important things. So I think that's a great message, finding that balance. That's really the key, is we can live our lives. We can have a healthy, prosperous, happy existence without rampaging over the environment. It's finding that balance where we can coexist.
Yep, that's exactly what I think is happening. And
I did have one.
Not to miss people losing their lives or being in pain, but that's really the greater purpose of what I believe, as you, that this is why this is happening. Yeah.
I did have one quick question. I believe I know the answer, but I know a lot of people may not be aware of the pronunciation Jeshua. So could you explain that so that everyone's aware of why you refer to him as Jeshua?
It's the name, his Hebrew name. And so when I channel the Jeshua's energy, to me, that's the frequency that I identify with. I don't necessarily identify with the name Jesus, but I put that as my title on my book, but I also refer to him as the Christ consciousness. So I refer to him as Christ or Jeshua. But for me, it's the vibration of the frequency. It's his Hebrew name. So I don't know if that answers your question or.
No, yeah, I just wanted to bring that out because I didn't encounter that many years ago, but I know that's probably new to a lot of people. And it's funny you were talking about, initially kind of feeling like when the angelic realm was coming to you, especially the Holy Family Ascended Masters, that it was kind of Catholic feeling. And I grew up Catholic, so I can totally understand all of the, sort of the archaea, the images and things like that. There's a lot of symbology that's there. And, it's kind of a good lead into metaphysics because, the Catholics believe in a lot of mysticism, which other Christian denominations don't necessarily get into. So it was kind of a good springboard into metaphysics. But that was one thing I was fascinated with when I started learning more about that Jesus is actually the Greek translation of his name. And so a lot of that goes back to the Greek translations of the Gospels. And so I actually encountered a group, and they actually pronounced it Hoshua. And so that was interesting. But yeah, it was all trying to get back to his original Hebrew name. And I've also heard his name pronounced Jeshua as well. So I was just fascinated by that and actually really resonate with that more than the more traditional pronunciation of Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so do I. I don't know. It sounds prettier.
Yeah.
So what's some higher wisdom that you share in your book, Divine Union, The Love Story of Jesus and Mary Magdalene?
Well, may surprise some, may not surprise others, that Mary Magdalene was family friends, and that he grew up with Jesus or Joshua, and that he was or is the twin flame of Joshua, and that they are spiritually equals, that they are the other half of each other's spirits, that they eventually married, had children, and that their energy, the energy of divine masculine, divine feminine, again, as I said before, was imprinted 2,000 years ago upon the earth plane for us now to be able to move forward into that sacred balance, because in this period of time of the ascension of the planet, this balance is so necessary because the earth had to go through an evolutionary cycle. We're in that powerful cycle of the ascension cycle. And again, that energy of balance is needed not only for our earth, but for humanity and for the planet to be able to return back to the planet of peace and love in which it was created. So much of the story really is about their struggles as humans. And because I'm a psychotherapist, the emotions in the story are very real. People are able to identify with the emotions that they've struggled with. And yet the greater picture of it is that they were able to, as masters, they were able to master their own emotions. They were able to master their own frailties, their own humanness, and then be able to live in their true self-mastery or their true ascended self. So as they were able to do this, they're paving the way, showing us that we can do this, moving through, again, those base emotions of fear and our frailties that we have and all the experiences that we've had through all of our soul incarnations of all the human emotions that we're trying to deal with, that they are there to help us, to support us, so that we too, as masters, can now be earth angels or ascended masters here on earth, doing the work that we need to do to help this planet to move forward. So essentially the answer to that is they are there as our brothers and sisters to help us to ascend and move into self-mastery. So that really is the biggest picture of this book.
And I think that's really great that people can relate that these were real human beings with struggles similar to what we had, that we experienced. And then, so I wasn't sure, did you say like twin flame? In other words, that they each were like their souls split apart and they were and then came together to be complete? Or could you elaborate on that?
With the twin flames, my understanding of twin flame essence is that we are sparked as one spirit, and then in a sense there's the male-female energy, and so Mary Magdalene represents the energy of the sacred mother, sacred feminine, Joshua, the sacred masculine. So we all have come forth into this incarnation with aspects of ourselves, again, that are not, we want to say not whole. We're always looking, for the other half of ourselves. And so we think, oh, that's the better half of ourselves. We're that completion of our spirit, these two beings, Joshua and Mary Magdalene, coming together as the twin flames, holding that frequency of balance, not only within themselves, but together, they have a soul contract. So many of the twin flames, many of the same sparks are coming together, doing their mission work together, and they're more powerful together than they are, individually. So they say that I've channeled Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are twin flames, powerful twin flames that have come together. That's why there's such interest, in them, that they've come together to do their mission work, to bring their soul contracts together. Probably you and your husband are twin flames. You're doing your spiritual work together.
Yeah, we believe so. And, we are friends with Alan and Sandra on Twin Flame Divine Fire. And, they were the first ones who brought up that idea. Even though I've heard of that concept before, in a little bit different way. A lot of times people talk about the soulmate. I think soulmate's the same kind of idea with the twin flame, maybe just described a little bit differently. And, it's interesting because you were talking about Joshua and Mary Magdalene being married. I know that's probably a new concept to a lot of people. And I was fascinated by a biblical scholar who was explaining one time that he would have actually been quite surprised if Jesus wasn't married, because the Jewish people referred to him as rabbi. And at the time, he said that it was traditional for a rabbi to have two wives, and that was the custom. So he didn't think that people would actually acknowledge him as a teacher if he had not been married. So, so yeah, I thought that was very interesting, even though I know that's still kind of out there for a lot of people. So real quick here before we go to the break, we got about 30 seconds. How can somebody find your books? I know this is just the latest of your books. So how would they find your books if they're interested?
You can go to my website, which is leachapin.com, leachapin.com. I have my book in paperback, and then just recently, just this year, I put it in audiobook. You can also find it on Amazon if you just Google Lee Chapin. But if you would like to go to my website, leachapin.com, then you can see everything that I have brought forth.
All right. Well, thanks, Lee. We'll see you on the other side of the break. We are at the bottom of the hour, so we're going to be going into a short break, but we will see you all on the other side. This is Spirit's Journey on Truth Frequency Radio, being simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. We will see you on the other side.
Do you have a product or service that assists humanity? Oneness Talk Radio is your unique opportunity to reach a responsive audience. Marketing budgets need to show value, and as a community of positive intention and commitment to planetary evolution, sponsorship of Oneness Talk Radio makes perfect sense. Our current sponsors are enjoying positive returns and increased customer flow. Epoch Lasers is one of those sponsors, and here is the owner sharing from Twin Flame Divine Fire.
The interest levels have definitely increased. People are acquiring the devices and are quite satisfied, and we are back from patients as well that are happy with the result.
Imagine the expansion you can enjoy as a sponsor of a single show or the entire network. Discover how you can honestly stretch the value of your advertising dollars with our affordable rates and vast worldwide audience.
Just send an email to otr@onenesstalkradio.com today.
This is Spirit's Journey with Patrick and Kathryn Andries. We are coming to you live on Truth Frequency Radio and Oneness Talk Radio. We're here today with Lee Chapin, who is a channel for the Holy Ascended Family Masters, as well as the Angelic and Celestial Realm. And so very interesting talk, and looking forward to the second half here. So Lee, you have a first book, actually, which is the 12 Mastery Teachings of Christ, which is an inspirational book of Christ's teachings. And I'd love if you could share some of those.
Thank you. Yes, in 2003, I was instructed by Christ to bring these teachings in audiobook form, and then I put it into paperback. And then most recently, I went back into the studio and did another version of audio recording of the Christ Mastery teachings. The first lesson is love. The second lesson is power. The third lesson is truth. Fourth is oneness. Fifth, enlightenment. Sixth is forgiveness. Seventh is hope. 8 is faith. 9 is rejuvenation. 10, remembrance. 11 is peace. And 12 is joy. And Christ had said that these were the essence of his teachings that he taught 2,000 years ago. And that with each lesson, there's a vibration within the words as you read them, and in the sound as you hear them, that will help you to embody those frequencies. So if you are in need of having difficulty forgiving, this chapter or listening to the audiobook will help like subliminal healing in some ways to help you to begin to shift your energy so that you can begin to forgive. If you need to embody and embrace the energy of joy within your life, which he says is the totality of all that is the energy of the God essence. That's why it's the last chapter. But each chapter has an accumulative energy, so without love, we can't move into joy. So each lesson is built on the power of Christ's healing energy. Once a month, I am now teaching these messages. Actually, Tuesday, May 19th, I'm going to be teaching the fifth lesson of enlightenment. I'll go through the chapter, and then I'll give a fresh channeled message from Christ about how we can begin to embody these teachings or these essence into our daily life so that we can return again to self-mastery. So this book is really about helping us to move through our lower base emotions, helping us to move forward into the ascension process into self-mastery. So that's what this is designed for. But it's a small manual. It's a bedside manual. It's easy to read. When I first got my book, I'd worked on it for about a year and a half, and it was so little that I thought, what happened to my book? But I heard in my head, I know, I laughed. I was like, what happened to my book? And then I heard in my head, Christ says, don't judge this. This is a very powerful manual. And so this book came out in 2003, and it's now been 17 years, and more people are now interested in it, which is interesting because he told me that once my Divine Union book would come out, that they would be interested in my first book. And that's really actually what's happened. And I know that over 17 years, more and more people are awakening. So this is a powerful little book, and it's there if you just need to have a little pick-me-up. If you need hope, read the chapter, listen to the messages, through the audio recording, and it's going to raise your vibration.
Now, I'm curious because there's 12 teachings. Is there any correlation between the 12 teachings and maybe the quality of energy represented by each of the 12 disciples?
That I do not know. I cannot answer that. So I don't know that.
I think you're going to have to read the book, Patrick, and see for yourself. He'll read the book, Lee, and let you know what he thinks.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I did. I never, no one's ever asked me that. I don't know. So, but 12 is a powerful number. So.
I know. Well, 12 astrological signs. We've done a lot of work, Patrick and I, correlating the zodiac signs with the 12 disciples. So that number 12 keeps coming up. But I was particularly interested in a lot of people have big issues with forgiveness. So can you share with us what you channeled in terms of how you teach, what is forgiveness and how do people do it?
Well, it was interesting. That was the hardest chapter I was editing it, and it was the hardest chapter to work with, which was most people have difficulty. I remember when I met my spiritual mentor, and I had gone through, I had an abuse as a child, and I had unforgiveness towards my stepdad. And I remember my spiritual mentor telling me that, do you want to come back and replay this lifetime with this person? It would be probably best for you to forgive, because in terms of cause and effect or karma or whatever, you don't want to replay this again. I'm like, heck no, I don't want to do that. But the bigger picture is that as you forgive, it's not really about letting the person off the hook. It's about you feeling better. It's about you feeling that sense of peace inside of yourself, that this doesn't have an effect upon you. This is not going to trigger within you your own victimization or your own core emotions. So the forgiveness is key in the sense that for you to be able to be at peace, for you to reconcile. And again, to remember, for some of your listeners, that we all have chosen as a soul, again, some level of our destiny in terms of who we came in to be with, the life lessons that we came in for our soul journey. And because we don't remember that, we oftentimes feel victimized and we want to blame someone else. But everyone's our teacher, even those who've abused us, that there's always a lesson for us to learn, to take back our own empowerment, and to, again, what's happening to us is there for us to master our own emotions, just as is described as Christ talked about, in the Divine Union book, to move through your own limitations and to move into self-mastery.
Yes. Oh, well, that's very helpful. Yeah, because I know a lot of people struggle with that. And so I was curious, I've heard of the Council of Nicaea where they took a lot of the things in the Bible out and changed it to their liking. What would you say about, how, or from your channelings, have you received information about the Bible in terms of how much was taken out? How accurate is it, since it's been translated so many times away from the Aramaic original language, and there's been additions, deletions? What message do you have for people that don't maybe trust the Bible because of that?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that except to say that there is truth in all things. It's a matter of using your own level of discernment to what feels right and true to you. That as you don't give your power away to anything, that you use your own innate wisdom, your own knowingness, to be able to judge what your soul, your personality, your incarnation in this lifetime, what resonates with you. I never did really understand the Bible, so it never really resonated with me. I don't discount it. I know that it's helpful to many people. I just never really resonated with it. When I started channeling and receiving the information through my work, through the Ascended Masters and the angelic realm and many of the galactic beings, that makes sense to me. So each person has to find their own way, their own pathway that makes sense to them. Your truth may not be my truth, but that's your truth. But that's the simplest way I can explain that.
That makes sense. And I find that too. Truth is where I find it. And if it's useful to me, then I consider it true. And I had to come to the conclusion growing up Catholic that, the documents in the Bible are over 2,000 years old in some cases. So, it stands to reason, they've been manipulated by people over the years. But I think that there's still that truth in there. It's still a valuable resource for many, many people. So, Jesus even often said, those with the eyes to see will see. Those with the ears to hear will hear. It's like, if you really look and I think what it's talking about is listening within. It's like when you turn within and you listen for the truth will always present itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because when I met my spiritual teacher and she started teaching me the metaphysical principles, I was like a sponge. That made sense to me. And again, I don't listen to a lot of other people's channelings, not because, I'm arrogant. I just have my own connection. I'm comfortable with that. And that's where I am filled when I make my connection, with the ascended beings that I work with.
And speaking, let's talk a little about the ascension process, because I know a lot of people, especially now, are thinking about it. We've had people over the years, want to know, is this my last lifetime? They want to be done with this physical schoolroom here. So a lot of the work that you do, you offer guidance on the ascension process for humanity and the planet. So how would you describe the ascension process?
It's really a shifting of energy. It's raising your frequency and moving into higher frequency, moving out of what I call the lower frequencies. Our third dimensional body is, a physical form of matter. We're carbon-based. And so we're trying to move into our light body. We're trying to move into our crystalline light body. We're trying to raise our frequency so that we're merging more and more with light. We were created in light. Our light body holds a certain amount of light in its frequency. And as we awaken in consciousness, then we can return to light. Then we're able to be able to access our higher wisdom, our soul, I call it our soul matrix, in terms of being able to access our higher frequencies of returning back to the God essence. So simply, we're ascending in consciousness. So when people say they want this to be their last lifetime, I would say to them, just to be mindful that the Earth School is a place of learning. and that we've come here for a purpose. Our souls have come here. That really is a grand experience, regardless of what trials or tribulations we have. That is a part of our soul growth. That's why we came here. So to dismiss that, I've had people tell me that, like you, they want this to be their last lifetime. Perhaps you're missing the opportunity to be able to ascend into your soul. You're going to have to, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. It's like you're going to have to do it anyway. It's like you're not going to escape your soul progression, either here on the earth or somewhere else. The soul is always in transition of changing. So don't rush through something that may seem difficult.
And so what would you say when people say, what's the purpose? Why am I here? Why are we stuck in this cycle of birth and death?
Well, I don't think we're stuck. You might be interested in reading, the listeners may be interested in this book I read in the early 90s called Many Are Called, Few Are Chosen by Heather Ann Harder. It awakened my eyes back then because I was in that same thinking, 25 years ago, where I didn't understand. And when I read that book, Heather, it's channeled book, that we as spirits, Lord Sananda, Jeshua, had called out in the great conclaves to all the different spirits from other planetary systems, from star galaxies to constellations, to come to the planet Earth to assist Mother Earth in her ascension process. We, all of our spirits from other places, volunteered to come to this earth plane to forget our oneness. That's when we fell from grace, I call it. Forgetting our oneness, we chose to come to the incarnational cycle again, time and time again, to bring our light to this planet. And we chose to move through these cycles of soul incarnation simply because we were here to assist this planet. And yet it was also a part of our soul ascension as well. So we chose to come. So if we understand, again, that we made the choice, that every time we come, we choose, this is a grand opportunity to be on the earth. It's not a place of punishment. It really is about perception. Things happen to us, but it's about how we deal with it. And if we move into being able to conquer our fears and to move into the higher perspective of what's happening in our life, then we can begin to have a life of greater ease and grace. So this is, to me, it's a glorious place to be, to embrace, to honor, to love, and to enjoy the ride. Whatever is happening, this is our choice, and we have chosen to be here.
Now I have a question. It's come in on our chat room on TFR Live. And so Rebecca's asking if people are escaping their learning experiences and trying to get out of their life because, they don't like what's been created. So are they going to have, do you believe, even tougher time in the next time when they come back around?
Well, I believe in cause and effect. I believe the soul has to balance itself. Again, like within my book, Divine Union, we talked about the balance, finding the balance. This is all about balance. This is about all the soul finding balance within itself, finding peace and coming to resolution. So if someone's consciousness has not shifted, then they're going to replay this until they get it. So that's a part of what my work is about. I am able to tap into the Akashic Records through my spiritual counseling. As a psychotherapist, I'm able to help people understand the higher perspective of their life challenges. And a lot of times it has to do with our past lives, it has to do with our soul contracts, and Spirit, as it works through me, will help bring you that clarity so that you have the understanding so you can now become empowered, shift your behavior, and then get on to with the business of what you're here to do and not get stuck in those lower vibrations. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, it does. Definitely. So can we talk about that a little bit more? Like what kinds of workshops and classes and seminars and things do you offer? And what does your personal counseling look like? How do you use this information with people?
Well, people call me, which is, it's always amazing. I've been doing this work now for 27 years. I've been a psychotherapist for 40. And more people are awakening to spiritual counseling because not only traditional therapy has somewhat limited, more and more people are awakening to the understanding that they are souls, that they believe in reincarnation, they want to tap into the higher wisdom of the masters, to be able to help themselves. And so what I do is people will call me, and I will just ask them what it is that they want to focus on, what life issues, and then I will typically work with Archangel Michael, or I work with many beings of light. I'm a versatile channel. I work with Christ and Mary Magdalene. But Archangel Michael is one of my primary guides, and he'll come in and he'll bring the information to the individual to help them to understand their problems from a higher spiritual perspective, as I said. So I work in increments of a half an hour or an hour, and people typically, by the time the hour is done, most people are feeling so much better. They have the information that they need, and twofold, Spirit will bring the information in that there actually needs to be a spiritual healing or a spiritual clearing to clear your energy field or to clear past life cord connections, past life energies. Then that work will be done. So that's what I do in my private sessions. Every Monday morning, I bring forth the mystical teachings of Mary Magdalene, like I said, in a teleconference call. Once a month, I teach the Christ Mastery teachings, which will begin, I'll be on to the 5th lesson this week. I've already started it. So for the year, I'm teaching one lesson. That will be the lesson of enlightenment. People can certainly join if they'd like to do that. They can contact me at leechapin.com or leechapin@gmail.com is my email. And then I am teaching 2 intuitive development classes to help people understand aspects of their life I'm helping to teach people about their intuitive development, their psychic abilities and their spiritual abilities, because Spirit says that during this time of quiet, during this quarantine, that this is a time to reset and begin to listen to our soul. So this is a grand opportunity, as the energy is right now on the planet, for us to be able to access our latent intuitive abilities. So I'm teaching 2 intuitive abilities class, and I'm giving readings for people in those classes, giving channeled information as well as teaching about how to tap into your own abilities. And then what I was guided to do was, for 30 days, I was guided to bring forth a daily meditation from Christ to help people to shift their consciousness from fear to love, to fear to peace. So for 30 days, if people want to sign up, $1 a day, $30 for the month, I bring forth a channeled message from Christ. It's about 10 or 15 minutes. And what is happening is it's like subliminal healing or biofeedback, where the energy of Christ, healing energy, is helping people to retrain their retrain their brain, to help them to alleviate their fears, but also to help them to move into a state of peace. So like their autonomic nervous system, their central nervous system is able to move back into that place of peace. So there's a variety of classes and things that I offer. I do, when I'm able to, I'll teach in person. I've been invited to go to various cities and teach in person, but now that we're quarantined, again, a lot of the work that I'm doing now is just through a teleconference or through a conference call. So that is what I do.
Wow, you offer a plethora of things, so folks can reach out to you on that.
We love having you with us, so please connect with us on Facebook at Spirit's Journey Radio, and be sure to like our page so that we can be part of your life. You can study with us or get a reading at intuitiveschool.com. This has been Spirit's Journey Live on Truth Frequency Radio and simulcast on Oneness Talk Radio. We are Patrick and Kathryn Andries. Goodbye for now. I'm Patrick Andries.
I'm Kathryn Andries, and you're tuned in to Oneness Talk Radio.
One world.
One voice.
Expand your vision.
Your vision.